Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, violent ICE operations escalate as chaos and anger intensify over the ICE agent surge in Minneapolis. The new threat from President Trump, warning of a day of reckoning and retribution, while state and local officials sue to block the administration's surge of hundreds of ICE agents following the deadly shooting of œGood, a mother of three.
Also here in Minneapolis tonight, ABC News has learned that 6 federal prosecutors working out of Minnesota have now resigned. What's leading to this mass exodus in the city in turmoil? I'm Faith Abube reporting on the ground.
Bloodshed and unrest in Iran 24 hours after warning Americans to leave the country. President Trump has vowed help is on the way for protesters. Iranian officials say about 2,000 people have been killed in widespread anti-government demonstrations. Former President Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton both defy a House subpoena to testify in the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Their scathing letter to the committee saying every person has to decide when they have seen or had enough and are ready to fight for this country. Now Republicans' next move to hold them in contempt.
They did not do anything to those little boys.
Timothy Busfield, famous for roles in The West Wing, 30-something, and Field of Dreams, maintains his innocence in a video posted online as he surrenders to authorities over child sex abuse allegations. And for the first time ever, more Americans are surviving cancer, what experts believe is saving lives.
From ABC News, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We begin with President Trump threatening Minnesota with a day of reckoning and retribution amid ongoing protests. The president is accusing Democrats there of causing unrest following the deadly ICE shooting of œGood in Minneapolis last week. Protests are still unfolding in the streets of Minneapolis today. Federal agents are facing off with protesters using tear gas and pepper spray. One video obtained by the local outlet Bring Me the News shows DHS agents arresting 2 employees at a Target in Richfield. A state lawmaker said they were U.S. citizens. Now we're learning at least 4 federal prosecutors operating out of Minneapolis have resigned out of concerns over the federal investigation. ABC's Faith Abube leads us off from Minneapolis.
Tonight, violent ICE operations escalating in the Twin Cities despite a lawsuit demanding they stop. Agents ripping a woman out of this vehicle. She tells them she's disabled. Agents also clashing with protesters and leading a man in shorts and a t-shirt away from a house. It's been nearly a week since ICE agent Jonathan Ross shot and killed œGood. The Department of Justice has called the killing justified and is not cooperating with state or local agencies on their investigation. And tonight, ABC News has learned that at least 4 federal prosecutors working out of Minnesota have resigned over concerns the department is focusing on investigating œGood, who the administration has called a domestic terrorist. On Monday, Minnesota and the Twin Cities filed lawsuits alleging agents were told to, quote, push the envelope of immigration enforcement tactics. President Trump responding to that lawsuit on Truth Social, writing, quote, Minnesota Democrats love the unrest that the anarchists and professional agitators are causing. End quote. Fear not, great people of Minnesota. The day of reckoning and retribution is coming. The ICE agents have been here since December. Video obtained by Bring Me the News shows agents arresting 2 workers at a Minnesota Target last week. A state lawmaker says they were U.S. citizens. Agents were first deployed to go after Minnesota's undocumented Somali immigrant population. President Trump has called Somalis garbage. And today, the Department of Homeland Security announcing they're revoking the temporary protected status for thousands of Somali refugees, ordering them to leave the country by March 17th. Secretary Noem declaring that conditions in Somalia have improved and allowing Somali nationals to remain temporarily in the United States is contrary to our national interests. Late today, President Trump went even further.
We're also going to revoke the citizenship of any naturalized immigrant from Somalia or anywhere else who is convicted of defrauding our citizens.
We spoke with several Somali immigrants today, including this woman who told me she's a U.S. citizen.
They're supposed to go back by March 17th or leave the country. Why do you think that's a problem?
It's a problem because there's no place to go back there. I don't think so. It's not safe to go back right now.
Lots of concern about safety on multiple fronts. Faith Abube joins us now. Faith, tell us what the mood is like on the ground there.
Well, Lindsay, there's anxiety here. People we're speaking to are on edge, but community activists are mobilizing people for a mass demonstration here next week to force ICE out. They're urging no school, no work, no shopping on January 23rd. Lindsay.
Faith Abube, our thanks to you. Overseas tonight, the violent crackdown on protesters in Iran takes another chilling turn. Tehran is now threatening to hang at least one of the arrested demonstrators. They've been seen throwing Molotov cocktails at a state-run TV station. Thousands killed by government forces. ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell reports from the region tonight.
Tonight, this is the face of the young Iranian facing imminent execution, according to activists. 26-year-old Irfan Soltani, a young man into sports and fashion, an Iranian non-profit sharing this image seen around the world. He's among more than 10,000 arrested, with fears the first wave of executions could start tomorrow. Tonight, President Trump warning if the regime starts hanging people, will take very strong action, vowing help is on the way.
All Iranian patriots, keep protesting, take over your institutions if possible, and save the name of the killers and the abusers that are abusing you.
The death toll surging, human rights groups saying at least 2,000 killed, and US officials expecting it to be even higher. New videos emerging online, despite a near-total communications blackout, showing dramatic street clashes between an unarmed crowd and state officers in the western city of œMigr. Kervan Gafaitim witnessed the start of the protest while visiting his family in Iran. He's just returned to France.
You can literally see the whole population at the beginning, the whole population of Tehran outside. And this is also very important, even religious people.
For the first time tonight, state-controlled media acknowledging the high death toll, calling the protesters terrorists, showing video of the destruction, burned out cars and buildings.
Our thanks to Ian Pannell. Tonight, President Trump is doubling down on his criticism of Fed Chairman Jerome Powell amid a criminal investigation, saying, quote, he's either incompetent or crooked. The president toured a Ford plant in Detroit, defending his tariff and economic policies as a new higher-than-expected inflation report was released today. ABC's Mary Bruce reports from the White House.
Tonight, President Trump touring a Ford factory in Michigan, painting a rosy picture of the economy.
The Trump economic boom is officially begun.
But new numbers out today show inflation up 2.7% since this time last year. Gas prices are down, but household staples like coffee up nearly 20%, ground beef up more than 15%, candy up 10%. The typical American household now spending $184 more a month to purchase the same goods and services as a year ago.
One of our top priorities in this mission is promoting greater affordability.
The president blaming Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell for not further lowering interest rates.
If I had the help of the Fed, it would be easier. But that jerk will be gone soon.
Trump's Justice Department has launched a criminal investigation into Powell and renovations of Fed buildings. Powell says it's part of the president's pressure campaign. And tonight, J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon sounding the alarm, saying everyone we know believes in Fed independence, and anything that chips away at that is probably not a great idea. Top Republicans also skeptical.
If the Justice Department is pursuing something, I hope they have a smoking gun or something, because I don't think you trifle with the Federal Reserve, with the central bank.
Today, I asked the president.
They say the investigation into Jerome Powell is going to undermine confidence in the Fed. Do you approve of this investigation?
He's billions of dollars over budget, so he either is incompetent or he's crooked. I don't know what he is, but he certainly doesn't do a very good job.
As he toured the factory today, Trump heckled by a man who shouted pedophile protector. The president responding with what seemed to be an expletive, then appearing to give the man the finger. The White House tonight saying the man was, quote, in a complete fit of rage, and the president gave an appropriate and unambiguous response.
Quite something there. Mary Bruce joins us now from the White House. Mary, the president has been focused on foreign policy for a period of weeks, but this speech today may be the start of a pivot, it seems.
Yeah, you're right about that, Linsey. The president making his economic pitch in Michigan today, even though he has spent the last several weeks focused largely on foreign affairs. But President Trump and Republicans know well that the midterms are quickly approaching and that the economy is the top issue for voters. Linsey.
Mary Bruce from the White House. Thanks so much, Mary. Former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton could face contempt charges for failing to comply with a congressional subpoena to testify about Jeffrey Epstein. Our senior political correspondent Rachel Scott has the latest.
Tonight, Bill and Hillary Clinton refusing to testify before the Republican-led House committee investigating sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, calling the committee's subpoena legally invalid. In a blistering letter, the former president and Secretary of State declaring, "Every person has to decide when they have seen or had enough and are ready to fight for this country, its principles, and its people, no matter the consequences. For us, now is that time." The Republican committee chair James Comer now threatening to hold the former president in contempt.
We will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress.
House Speaker Mike Johnson sounding fully on board.
I think clearly he's defied a subpoena of Congress. I'm not sure what the other remedy would be. I mean, it's a contempt. It shows contempt for Congress.
In their extraordinary 4-page letter, the Clintons warning Republicans, "You're on the cusp of bringing Congress to a halt to pursue a rarely used process literally designed to result in our imprisonment." Former President Clinton was friendly with Epstein, but he has never been accused of any wrongdoing. And the White House chief of staff told Vanity Fair President Trump was wrong to claim there was incriminating evidence about Clinton in the Epstein files. President Trump himself had a long friendship with Epstein. And today Republicans were asked why he hasn't been called in to testify.
He answers questions every day about Epstein.
But the Clintons say the Republican mission is clear, writing, "What you are doing is trying to punish those you see as your enemies and to protect those you think are your friends."
Rachel Scott joins us now. Rachel, what comes next?
So the Republican House Oversight Committee, Linsey, plans to move forward with a resolution to hold Bill Clinton in contempt of Congress. That is going to happen next week, according to Comer. And then the next step, Speaker Mike Johnson said he would support holding a vote to hold Bill Clinton in contempt of Congress on the House floor. If that passes, it then gets referred over to the Justice Department, and it's up to them to decide whether or not they're going to prosecute the former president. It would be an extremely rare move, Linsey.
Sure would. All right, Rachel Scott, our thanks to you. Whether or not trans athletes should play in girls' and women's sports has been a hotly debated topic across the country for the last few years. 21 states currently allow trans girls to compete on girls' sports teams, and 27 states, including West Virginia, exclude trans athletes in girls' sports. Today, the Supreme Court heard a case that could decide if trans athletes are allowed to be included in girls' sports. Here to discuss the case is West Virginia Attorney General J.B. McCuskey, who is the co-lead arguing this case on behalf of West Virginia. Thank you so much for joining us. You say that banning trans athletes from girls' sports is essential for safety and fairness. What were you hoping to achieve at the Supreme Court today, and how do you think that the justices received your arguments?
So I'll start with the second part of your question. The justices were incredibly receptive to the arguments that our solicitor, Michael Williams, made today. And the simple question that we were trying to get answered and what we're trying to achieve is to make sure that laws that are like West Virginia's, but specifically West Virginia's law, are found constitutional under both the Equal Protection Clause and Title IX. And what we saw today was a wonderful round of questioning from the judges, and we feel really, really good about our chances moving forward.
Studies have shown testosterone produced during male puberty does lead to more muscle mass, larger hearts and lungs, greater body height, among other things. But before puberty, research shows that sex differences in athletic performance are minimal. Becky, the teen girl at the center of this case, says that she's never undergone male puberty because of puberty blocking medication and therefore does not have an advantage. How do you respond?
Yeah, so a couple of ways. I think first and most importantly, one of the really interesting things that I saw the ACLU arguing today was that, number one, they conceded that our law was constitutional and they conceded that our law was legal. But what they were really trying to establish was that there's this very tiny subset of people within the subset of transgendered athletes who have undergone puberty blockers at such a young age that they are essentially a female. And I found that argument very strange because under our Constitution and under the Equal Protection Clause, this case is to be argued under a rational basis test. And they were continuing to ask questions, and the ACLU was continuing to posit that there is a large enough community of people who have had puberty blockers or surgery at a young enough age where they should be. This law is excluding them without a basis for having a biological difference. And so, I think that argument is going to get lost on the court. And I also think that it in essence is kind of a strange argument that you're only covered by this, by their argument if your parents give you puberty blocking medication at an incredibly young age.
There are some cisgender girls and women with higher testosterone levels, as you know, which could theoretically lead to advantages in sports. Where do you draw the line with fairness? Would you propose testing hormonal levels in women in an effort to maintain equality in women and girls sports?
Yeah, they already do that. The International Olympic Committee and the NCAA routinely tests women who they think have been doping, and that's been happening since forever. But we draw the line at the definition of the word sex, just as the statute at issue here in Title IX says that it is permissible to have sex-based distinctions, particularly under the Javits Amendment, in the arena of sports. And that's what we were talking about today.
Becky was the only known trans athlete in West Virginia in any sport to take home a top prize. Why choose this battle when the number of trans girls competing on this level in your state is minimal? In fact, it's just 1% of more than 8 million American teens in the nation who compete in sports. Would you agree that there are other laws and policies that are more important to the majority of West Virginians?
So interestingly enough, you're making our argument, because if it is 1%, then this rationally designed law passes muster under the Equal Protection Clause. But more importantly, this case chose us. We wouldn't be sitting here today if the ACLU hadn't sued the state of West Virginia, not the other way around.
West Virginia Attorney General J.B. McCuskey, we thank you so much for your time. Appreciate your insight.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And here now is Human Rights Campaign Senior Director of Legal Policy, Catherine Oakley. Catherine, thanks so much for joining us. We just heard the Attorney General of West Virginia say that they're pleased with how today's arguments were received by the justices and feel good about their chances. How do you think things went for the two trans female athletes at the heart of this case?
Well, I definitely dispute the characterization by the general about the way he thinks that the arguments went. I don't think that there was anywhere near as much conceding as he implies. Look, I think it's also really important to say that constitutional rights are for everybody. Everybody is entitled to their constitutional rights. So simply because there aren't that many people who are being deprived of their rights doesn't make them not constitutional rights. So I think actually that the conversation today, there was a lot of really important things that the court was asking about, that the court wanted to understand, a lot of really hard questions that they asked both West Virginia and Idaho, both of whom were defending discriminatory laws that those states had passed. So again, I dispute the idea that this found them. These cases arose out of discriminatory legislation that these states passed that are specifically targeting transgender girls and women for different treatment than other folks under both Title IX and the Equal Protection Clause.
A recent Gallup poll last year found that 69% of Americans say trans girls should only be allowed to play on the boys' teams. The Attorney General says that banning trans athletes in girls' sports is essential to safety and fairness. How can sports be inclusive of trans athletes while also maintaining fairness for all athletes?
Fairness is key to playing sports. I mean, it's just absolutely key. And that is one of the reasons why it is so disheartening and frustrating to hear these arguments being made that are just not based in fact. As you mentioned, the plaintiff in West Virginia was 11 years old when her case was filed. She had taken puberty blockers. She had none of the so-called physical advantages that the other side says are immediately attend. There's really no reason why she shouldn't be allowed to, I believe her sport is shot put. There's really no reason why she shouldn't be allowed to do that in a way that is fair. And in fact, prior to all of these states moving forward, at the behest, I might add, of the Alliance Defending Freedom, which is an anti-LGBTQ hate group, who also, by the way, was instrumental in overturning Roe versus Wade. They've appointed themselves, apparently, the arbiter of women's rights. These folks are coming after young folks like Becky who just want to be able to play sports with their friends. And the idea that having one child in West Virginia be able to play on her school team and a federally funded educational activity, that having her be able to play somehow hurts other folks is really preposterous.
We've seen a spike in the number of laws enacted affecting trans Americans, not just in sports, but also access to health care. Why do you think that there's such growing attention on the trans community?
Well, that's a great question. And the answer is that it is completely contrived by these anti-LGBTQ hate groups. And you mentioned the polling, and that's really important because, look, I participated in high school sports when I was young. I am now a mother with daughters who also play sports. I understand how important the fairness aspect of this is, truly. And a lot of folks don't have enough of a frame of reference to understand what it means to have a young person who's trans who wants to play sports. What they have heard are the talking points that have been spread by folks like the Alliance Defending Freedom, who, by the way, was also behind Project 2025. These are not folks who have the best interests of women and girls at heart. They are trying to promote their very specific version of the world and of the laws that they think that we should have. And I, as a person who believes that folks should be able to live their truth, live their freedom, and be entitled to constitutional rights, even if the Christian nationalists don't approve, I think that these folks are really off base. And it's too bad that so many folks who really do care about women's sports and who really do care about fairness have heard so many of these anti-LGBTQ, anti-transgender talking points, but they don't know enough young trans folks to be able to see that those are lies.
Catherine, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And we'll learn how the Supreme Court decides this case by the end of June this year. Actor Timothy Busfield surrendered to authorities in New Mexico today to face child sex abuse allegations involving two young actors. Busfield, known for roles in The West Wing and 30-something, released a video denying the allegations. ABC's Trevor Ault has the latest.
Tonight, actor-director Timothy Busfield, known for his roles on hit shows 30-something and The West Wing.
I've only been a White House reporter for 7 years, and I appreciate you clearing that up.
Has now turned himself into police, charged with sex crimes against a pair of child actors he directed, releasing this video to TMZ.
They're all lies, and I did not do anything to those little boys, and I'm going to fight it.
According to the arrest warrant, the suspected abuse allegedly happened in New Mexico during the filming of the TV series The Cleaning Lady.
It's time to help out.
I don't need that kind of help.
Albuquerque police claim the victims' parents reported the case to Child Protective Services, saying the alleged abuse started when the boys were 7 years old and lasted more than a year. Investigators claim the mother told them Busfield had the boys call him Uncle Tim, and one of the boys said Tim would come into the bedroom on the movie set. Police allege that child was later diagnosed with PTSD, and his therapist reported the boy was having nightmares about the director touching him. Earlier today, U.S. Marshals launched a search for Busfield in New York's Catskill Mountains, where he lives with his wife, actress Melissa Gilbert. Busfield says he was already driving to New Mexico.
I got the call Friday night. I had to get a lawyer. Saturday, I got in a car and drove 2,000 miles to Albuquerque.
In response to the allegations, NBC is pulling an upcoming episode of Law & Order SVU, where Busfield was set to play a judge, and Warner Brothers, which produced The Cleaning Lady, is promising to cooperate with law enforcement.
Our thanks to Trevor Ault. Tense moments in the courtroom today during the trial for former Uvalde school police officer Adrian Gonzalez. The judge threatened to declare a mistrial if family members of the victims disrupt the trial again. The warning came after a woman in the gallery, a sister of one of the teachers killed, shouted toward the lawyers. Take a listen.
You know who went into the fatal funnel? My sister went into the fatal funnel.
Ma'am,
did she need a key? Why do you need a key?
Ma'am, go ahead and have a seat.
Y'all are saying that she didn't lock the door. She went into the fatal funnel. She did it!
Jurors heard graphic testimony today from a deputy law enforcement officer about the moment he rushed to Robb Elementary when he learned about the shooting. Adrian Gonzalez has pleaded not guilty to all charges. The trial is in its 6th day. After 19 years at the helm in Pittsburgh, Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin has stepped down. Sources tell ESPN that Tomlin told players he was leaving the team during a meeting following the team's wild card loss to the Houston Texans last night. With a Super Bowl ring from 2009 and 0 losing seasons in Pittsburgh, Tomlin sits tied 9th for most wins by a coach in NFL history. The team will now begin a search for a new head coach, just their 4th since 1969. The LAPD told ABC News that Hollywood actor Kiefer Sutherland was arrested on felony criminal charges. Authorities received a call involving an altercation, and Sutherland is being accused of entering a rideshare vehicle and assaulting the driver in a Hollywood intersection early Monday morning. No injuries required medical treatment, and Sutherland posted bail at $50,000. The actor is due in court on February 2nd as police are investigating the incident. Coming up in tonight's Prime Focus, we take you inside Iran, where we're hearing rare accounts of the ongoing protests from on the ground.
From my perspective, it was not just guns, pistols, it was like gunshots, maybe rifles.
Plus, the suspect in the Gilgo Beach murders is set to stand trial. We'll tell you when the judge says it will happen. And Tell Me Lies is back. Stars Grace Van Patten and Jackson White tell us what to expect from the sultry and salacious season 3. Welcome back, everyone. An entire country plunged into darkness. The people of Iran have had their landlines and internet shut off after anti-regime protests grew throughout the country. What started as economic turmoil is now a call for their leader to fall. Chants now echo in virtually every street, and though information is hard to get out, our team has the latest on what's happening inside the country of 92 million people. Tom Sufi Burge has this in-depth report about the state of the protests right now and what could be coming next.
Amid complete darkness, a wave of lights. Protesters turning on their flashlights, making sure the world sees just how many people are showing up, night after night. This is the most serious challenge facing Iran's rulers in decades. Huge crowds flooding the streets, blocking highways, chanting for change.
It's actually all parts of Iranian society that are saying down with the regime. They're saying marg bar dictator. This isn't just about the economy, this is about people not wanting this regime in power.
Mass defiance from Iranians yearning for an end to their country's authoritarian regime, even if it means putting their own lives on the line. A toxic mix of soaring inflation and Iran's currency plummeting in value, driving the anger towards those in power.
It did start because of just an economic trigger, and it was with shop owners in the bazaar closing down their shops and essentially saying, like, we can't sell our goods day to day. It's now become a massive nationwide, in all 31 provinces, protest.
From the capital, Tehran, to Mashhad, Iran's second biggest city, and other metropoles like Kerman and Shiraz in the south. The protests spreading fast through this vast country of 90 million people, where there have been uprisings before. Today's regime, led by Muslim clerics, was born after the 1979 Islamic Revolution. And 3 years ago, Iran's Women Life Freedom movement challenging the regime over women's rights. Some see similar tactics from the authorities cracking down today.
There are also reports that people are being intentionally blinded with projectiles being shot at close range at protesters' eyes.
In 2023, ABC News spoke with a protester who faced these tactics during the Women Life Freedom movement.
اسلحه پینتبال دستش بود. در کمتر از 1 ثانیه سر اسلحه رو آورد بالا و به صورت من شلیک کرد که باعث شد چشم چپم رو برای همیشه از دست بدم.
In today's protests, the regime's violence continues in the dark. The authorities cutting all communications since late last week. Once the phone and internet blackout began, the crackdown from Iran's security services quickly followed.
It was very dangerous. In the air, you can feel that something is going to happen.
How are you doing? Nice to meet you. Thanks for having us over.
Kevan Givaiti returned to his home in Paris this morning from Tehran. He was there visiting family during the first 2 weeks of the protests. Kevan, who is French and Iranian, didn't join the protests because of how risky that is. But from his apartment in Tehran, he could hear bursts of gunfire, and he says it had to be the security services shooting.
From my perspective, it was not just guns, pistols, it was like gunshots, maybe rifles, maybe bigger guns.
Kivan says that climate of fear meant in recent days fewer people have gone out to protest.
I can tell you that a lot of people were out the first days and then not the next days because too much risk.
It's just too much risk to go out on the streets, and the security services are cracking down.
Exactly.
By day, the cost paid by some protesters and their now grieving families all too clear. Chilling images of dozens of bodies laid on the ground outside a medical centre. Cries of anguish also ringing out in the morgue nearby.
Iran International, which is a diaspora media station, has said that the figure is 2,000, but that's a conservative estimate. Doctors are talking about being overwhelmed, about not having enough surgeons to meet the need. There's been some clips that have been played in international media, basically relaying the messages of these doctors.
I've never seen anything like this, at least from the part of the world that I come from and the stories that I hear. And it hits really deep for us.
Dr. Kaivan Mahadi left Iran when he was 12 years old. He's now in touch with doctors on the ground, many who say they are treating patients in secret. Protesters are avoiding treatment, scared of being found by the regime.
They are present in the hospitals in Iran and telling them, no, you cannot open the OR to fix this person's eye. You cannot open the... And they're gathering all the electronic medical records with their numbers, just so even if they're treated, they can go later and get them.
More than 10,000 people detained, according to human rights activists, by a regime accused of extracting false confessions and executing people without trial. 26-year-old Irfan Soltani, arrested during protests on January 8th, is facing execution as early as tomorrow, rights groups say. He was denied access to a lawyer. The internet and phone blackout helping to cover up alleged human rights abuses and also cutting off Iranians from the outside world.
People cannot reach people in Iran. The way that people are communicating with people in Iran is because some people have Starlink enabled.
Starlink terminals in Iran mean some video does get out. But experts say the US could widen the access to Starlink for many more Iranians via their cell phones.
Right now, this feature is turned off for Iran. It just needs to be turned on. And so the satellites are overhead, the phones are ready. It would take about 2 weeks to make that operational. I would like to see SpaceX, the US government, or another satellite company flip the switch for Iran.
Even in the darkness, the crowds continue to gather. But many Iranians are now waiting for President Trump's next move.
Our thanks to Tom Sufi-Burridge. Coming up, the promising news about cancer treatments and cures and how AI is playing a role in it all. And affordability in the spotlight, the latest inflation numbers, and what it means for your wallet. Welcome back to Prime, everyone. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. Today, President Trump vowed that, quote, reckoning and retribution is coming to the state of Minnesota. He accuses Democrats there of causing unrest throughout the state due to their opposition to his immigration policies. DHS maintains the ICE official who shot œGood did so in self-defense. This is a new Quinnipiac University poll finds that the majority of voters believe the shooting was not justified. Republicans are threatening to hold Bill and Hillary Clinton in contempt of Congress for refusing to testify about Jeffrey Epstein. The former president and former Secretary of State were subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee for separate depositions. Former President Clinton did not appear today, and the Clintons' lawyer has not yet said if the former First Lady will show up tomorrow. As President Trump intensifies his interest in Greenland, the prime ministers of Greenland and Denmark reiterated that the country is not for sale. The Greenland prime minister added that the Arctic island chooses Denmark over the U.S. The two leaders are holding a press conference in Copenhagen ahead of the critical talks at the White House tomorrow between U.S., Danish, and Greenlandic officials. And still ahead, a paraglider takes a terrifying plunge off the Florida coast. We have the details of the incredible rescue. Welcome back, everyone. The latest Consumer Price Index report for December was released this morning, showing where prices were trending as we closed out 2025. And while inflation held steady and ended up in line with what economists expected in the report, the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that prices for certain everyday items continue to soar. We'll have more from our Elizabeth Schulze on what this all means in a moment. But first, let's look at the report by the numbers. The report showed inflation up 2.7% over the year, remaining unchanged from November, while prices for all items rose 0.3% month over month. Despite being consistent, the inflation number is still higher than the Fed's target annual rate of 2%. Coffee saw one of the biggest price increases, jumping nearly 20% compared to a year ago, and beef prices climbed almost 16% in that same time frame. And while people like to bring up the price of eggs when it comes to costs, those prices were actually down almost 21% year over year. Outside of food, natural gas prices rose nearly 11% year over year, and electricity was up 6.7% in that time. To underscore just how families are impacted, a new Moody's Analytics report shows the average American family is spending $184 more per month for the same goods and services compared to 1 year ago, and $376 more than just 2 years ago. The Core Consumer Price Index, which measures costs for all items excluding food and energy, was actually lower than expected at 2.6% for the year. Some notable year-over-year price increases within that index include shelter, medical care, household furnishings and operations, recreation, and personal care. For more on all this, we're joined by Elizabeth Schulze. Elizabeth, thanks so much for joining us. We mentioned how much more families are paying for goods and services compared to a year or two ago. How should families feel about this data?
You know, what inflation really comes down to, Lindsay, is what you see when you go to the store and you look at the price tag. And we can talk about inflation slowing. It's not as bad as it was a couple of years ago, but slowing inflation does still mean prices are going up, especially in a lot of those day-to-day costs. When you think about it and you look at this data, you see, for example, Lindsay, utility bills are up double digits. One thing that really stuck out to me, childcare, daycare costs up 5% over the past year. Rent prices are higher. Grocery prices, we did see a big monthly increase in grocery prices. They're up 2.5% over the past year. And there are some staples that have really gotten more expensive in the past year. Coffee up 20%, ground beef up 16%. One piece of good news is the price of eggs is down more than 20%. But a lot of those day-to-day costs is really informing how people feel and why people's budgets are so tight. And for families who are still trying to save money on these items where we see prices going up, what are some ways that they can still save? Right. So a couple of things that can help just really quickly cut down that grocery bill. Think about signing up for your groceries membership loyalty program. This can give you automatic coupons. It can save you a couple dollars every time you go to the store if you're scanning that code, if you're using the app. Also, if you have a credit card, look if it has a free subscription included to something like DoorDash. If you order groceries through DoorDash, for example, if you choose to order it and then pick it up in the store, you can get money back on your next order of groceries. One other thing that, people might not think about when they go to the store, Lindsay, when you're actually shopping, look at that bottom rack, because often the cheapest items will be there. Companies want to put things at eye level where you see them first. You might actually find better deals on generic brands when you look a little bit further down in the grocery aisle, Lindsay. Some really helpful and practical tips there. Elizabeth Schulze, thank you. Thanks. Coming up, Tell Me Lies is back and steamy as ever in season 3. The stars of the show tell us what's next for Lucy and Steven. And also back, BTS. After 4 years away, the K-pop stars are getting ready to tour the world. Find out where they're going and when next. Major progress on cancer, a death-defying fall, and the major new tour for BTS. These stories and more in tonight's rundown. For the first time ever, 7 in 10 people diagnosed with cancer are now living at least 5 years, according to a new report from the American Cancer Society. Survival gains are especially notable for more fatal cancers, including myeloma, liver, and lung cancer. Experts credit the progress to early detection, improved therapies, and declining tobacco use. Despite the progress in survivorship, cancer rates are projected to top 2 million this year, with more than 620,000 deaths. Meanwhile, the nonprofit Cancer Research Institute has launched a first of its kind AI-optimized immunotherapy database designed to speed research and help identify treatments more quickly.
A judge has confirmed that Rex Heuermann is set to stand trial for the Gilgo Beach murder shortly after Labor Day. Heuermann, who has pleaded not guilty to killing 7 women whose remains were found on Long Island, is challenging key evidence linked to the murders, including items seized from his home, office, vehicles, and a rented storage unit, along with DNA evidence. His defense also wants to exclude statements that he made after his July 2023 arrest, including one about no longer needing his $6,000 wristwatch. Prosecutors opposed the motions, and the judge gave the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office until March to respond to Heuermann's request to suppress certain evidence and dismiss one of the charges. One death-defying drop. Body camera footage released by the Riviera Beach Police Department in Florida shows the dramatic moment a powered paraglider dropped out of the sky and landed in the ocean. The 52-year-old was not injured, and nearby beachgoers rushed to help him and bring him to the shore. Authorities say the cause of the incident is still unclear. The Athletes Unlimited Softball League has selected 6 cities that will serve as the new homes of its traveling teams, from the Texas Volts to the Chicago Bandits. The 6 teams will debut for their new homes in the league's 2nd season this summer. The Athletes Unlimited Softball League, which is backed by a major investment from Major League Baseball, says it will now focus on a more traditional city-based model as it looks to help shape the future of professional women's sports. Oscar-winning actress Zoe Saldana now holds the title as the highest-grossing actor of all time. Variety reports that her films have raked in $15 billion to date. Saldana takes the crown after Avatar: Fire and Ash crossed the $1 billion mark. The box office numbers from the Avatar franchise, Star Trek, and Marvel movies are fueling her rise to the #1 spot. The K-pop group BTS has announced a new world tour kicking off in South Korea in April and running through March 2027 with over 70 dates across Asia, North America, South America, Australia, and Europe. This marks the group's first return to music after a 4-year hiatus, during which the group's 7 members had to complete their mandatory military service in South Korea. Pre-sale tickets will take place on January 22nd. The 3rd season of the hit series Tell Me Lies is back. Earlier this week, we had a chance to sit down with the show's co-stars. Here's our conversation. It's steamy, it's messy, and fans can't stop watching. Hulu's Tell Me Lies is back for season 3. And if you thought the drama peaked before, think again. Based on the novel by Carola Lovering, the series follows Lucy Albright and Stephen DeMarco, 2 people who should not be together yet keep finding their way back into each other's toxic lives. Let's take a look.
I have made some mistakes, but I've done nothing even close to what you've done.
He's not someone who lets things go.
He's gonna hold this over us forever.
Joining us now, the stars of Tell Me Lies, Grace Van Patten and Jackson White. Great to have you all back with us.
Us too.
I mean, I think that people kind of get a sense from the clip that we've seen there. If they haven't watched, this is about really messy relationships, a lot of drama as well. That's what keeps the viewers coming back. What keeps you all excited about it as the actors?
Ooh, every year it's something crazier.
Yeah, we never predict what we're going to do, so it keeps us on the edge of our seats as well.
And so you all have worked together as co-stars since 2022. How would you say that you have grown together as actors?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, we've all gotten so close. We're all so close, the whole cast, which we're really lucky, and I feel like we just grew up together.
Yeah, it feels
I feel
that
like
way.
we were babies, and we all grew side by side, which is so nice.
And so everybody didn't get as close as the 2 of you necessarily, because
we
you
kinda
guys
got,
actually
we got really close.
We got super close.
In real life. So what's your advice for women in particular, or men, who keep going back to toxic relationships?
This is the theme of the day here.
It's really easy to get into a toxic cycle, and it's really easy to know you're in one, but the hardest thing is getting out of it and breaking the cycle. And it's a really brave thing to do and a scary thing to do. So I would encourage anyone who relates to this show too much to know you're in a bad situation. And you should probably get out of it.
That's good, some good advice. Without giving too much away, what would you say that might surprise the viewers about your characters this season?
Well,
it just gets worse and worse.
It gets worse. We're all going through it.
Yeah.
A surprise, I would say, I feel like Lucy is less stubborn and defiant in her decisions and actually starts second guessing herself. That leads to her journey this season, I would say.
Yeah, she's going through it.
Yeah.
And then I'm doubling down on my horrible behavior.
Yeah, you're partly the reason for her going through it.
Yeah. Grace, you recently took on the role of playing on Hulu, the twisted tale of Amanda Knox. How was your experience when you're actually portraying a real life person?
Really different, and it was really new for me, but it was amazing. It was such a fulfilling experience and felt like I was doing something really important for someone, giving someone a voice who hasn't had the chance to tell their story. So it was really, really meaningful experience to me.
Is there ever a time that you all think, put it out into the universe, you know, this is the kind of role I want to play?
Yeah. I think it's really powerful. I think you can manifest those things, good and bad.
Too.
Do you have any ideas in mind of what you're looking to manifest?
Something physical.
Yeah, something active.
I think we both want to run around and jump in the dirt.
That is, yeah.
We were just talking about that.
Some sort of action, something. Would
Action,
be really
running.
Fun.
We want to run.
He just wants to run.
All right. We'll see if the next time you guys are here, you're going to be saying, guess what? I've tied up my running shoes.
I ran.
So, tell us, do you think that there will be a season 4?
We don't know.
We don't know. We have no idea. But I think people are really going to like the ending of this season.
They're going to freak out.
I think it's the perfect ending, and it can go on, and it would also be the perfect ending if it was the actual end.
All right. That's a good tease.
Yeah.
Grace Jackson, thank you both so much for coming back on. Really appreciate it. Make sure to watch season 3 of Tell Me Lies. The first 2 episodes are now streaming on Hulu. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us.